This is your girl, Sada Star, coming to you with another episode of A Day in the Life of the Alpha Woman, the official podcast of the Easy Breezy Life community. Before I jump into today's topic, if this is your first time joining us, the Easy Breezy Life is a community of strong-willed women who understand that it can be so challenging to manage faith, family, life, and pursue our goals. Well, here at the Easy Breezy Life, you're going to find a community of like-minded women who are just as fierce, focused, and fired up as you are. It's also important that I let you know that everything we share on this platform is for education and entertainment purposes only. Because we believe that the Easy Breezy Life is a group project, we want you to seek out professional help in every way, shape, or form that you might need it. We are going to take a brief break, and we'll be back with this week's episode.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen to? How do I make money for my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. I love to use Anchor to reach my strong-willed alpha woman community and help them live healthy, abundant, and successful lives together. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
And we are back. Joining me today is a very, very special guest that I'm so excited to have. It's been a long time coming, but I know that y'all about to be blessed. Elyzon Tosin is a multifaceted woman, a clinical data analyst, a chemist, makeup artist, convener, mom. Let me add single mom, okay? You're going to learn more about that soon.
Yeah.
And she's a woman who is passionate about helping women who are struggling with domestic violence. How are you,
I'm
Tosin?
doing okay. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, this is so amazing to have you because for those of you who are just listening in, and I know you've never met her on this platform before, but I've done a couple of projects with Tosin in the city of Newark surrounding ShePillars, where she has really focused on women's issues and everything from addressing victims in the local YMCA domestic violence shelter. She is passionate about working with women in prisons, just making sure, even down to making sure that women have sanitary napkins. I mean, the work that she has been doing in the local community is simply fantastic. And I have to say that she's done my makeup before. She's also put me on the game and told me, get your vitamin C up. Do you see my
Oh
skin?
yeah, I see the glow.
You see the skin? Sis.
Yeah, I feel the glow.
Vitamin C on deck. And so she just has a wealth of information to give the community today. How are you today, Tosin? How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. So why don't you start by telling them a little bit more? Because I don't know how you find a chemist makeup artist, but one thing I know is that combination has worked wonders for me. Talk to me about these various passions that you have and how they all tie in together.
Yes, I started makeup artistry like 10 years ago. And for me, that's been a passion. Sometimes I even don't there was a time I wasn't placing premium on it. Like my friends just come, I just beat their face and they go. So over time, I'm like, okay, let me start placing a premium on it. And then, it's been fetching some little money there and abouts. And then I actually studied chemistry in school, had my bachelor's in chemistry. And from there, I learned formulations. And now currently, I'm actually doing some courses with Society of Cosmetic Chemists UK. So that's been like a long time coming thing from me, from my bachelor's to, finding a side also And then when I got into the US, it was more or less like, oh, this is clinical data, seems more interesting. So I delved into that too. And I realized that at some point I was actually looking for a job as a chemist. I realized that most companies here are actually looking for, say, like 6 years experience, 5 years experience working in a laboratory. And that, considering my state at that point, I felt like I needed to do more, like either go for my master's in cosmetic chemistry or either pick up a diploma in the US. So checking up on that, I realized that it was going to cost me a lot and the funds were not available for me. And honestly, I didn't want to take any student loan to do that. So I decided that I was going to do it anyway, but I was going to pay out of pocket. So that's how I delved into cosmetic chemistry. And then the data analysis part was, it was like more or less like it's a core, like coming all together. I have cosmetic chemistry on the side, working as a makeup artist, and then working as on my off days I work as a chemist with a laboratory in Newark. So it's all like I have it's like setting a time frame and working out a timetable that really works for me. And so far it's been quite challenging, having to do that, being a single mom. And but so far so good. I'm enjoying everything, and that's why sometimes I really don't. I'm not all out there as of now, because for me this period is a period of pruning and a period of working on what I am doing at the moment. So for me, that's why I said I'm multifaceted, like everywhere. You call a chemist, I'm there. You call a makeup artist, I'm there. You call a data analyst, I'm there. And so far, I'm even training some people on data management right now. So it's really having me all over the place.
And if that weren't enough, right? You work full time, you're an entrepreneur, you are a single mom, right?
Yeah.
And you also recently bought your own house. I think it's okay to say that.
Yes.
Right. But I think it's also important to mention that you are a first generation immigrant. Like, you came to the United States how many years now with your child?
It will be 4 years.
In 4 years.
Yeah.
This is what you've accomplished.
Yes. And trust me, it wasn't easy going from, settling down, I've had to work jobs. When I say jobs, I mean jobs. I've worked in pizza factories. I've worked in cosmetic factories as a line leader. I have worked as in a cold room. I've worked in different places. I've had to work as a CNA. I work 11 to 7 with New Community, and then 4 to 9 p.m. I have to work as a customer care representative with Abercrombie and Fitch and all this stuff. And then by 11, I'm out again at night, coming back the following morning by 7 a.m. 7:30, I have to get my son ready for school. I have a 30 minutes window before I get him ready for school. So I did that for about 2.5 years. And before I got a major breakthrough in working as a clinical data analyst. And so far it's been okay. I have time for the things that matter. I have time for God. I have time for my son, and then I have my personal time. So working as a data analyst, it really helped me, and I work remotely, so that has helped me so much.
Right. But I have to say, from the outside looking in, what you've been able to accomplish in 4 years as a single mom is simply miraculous, right? Like, watching you move.
Yeah.
Watching the way that you're engaged in our church life, right? Because we go to the same church. Watching how you're engaged in the community. Watching how you're all over your son. Like,
yes.
You spent 1 to 2 hours with this woman and her son, and it's a tight ship.
I know.
Just melting in tears.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I feel like being a single mom is not an excuse for you not to bring up your child in a proper way. Single motherhood is not an excuse for you not being able to play your role as a mother. The society you will be seen as a failure if years to come your child is not looking well balanced. It's not looking as much, it's not fitting into what society will think that, oh, this is how a child should look, this is how a child should be. So single motherhood is not an excuse for you not being the best of yourself and also giving out. Because what you don't have, you cannot give. So I feel like working first on yourself is most important than having to give out. Work on yourself and make sure that anything that's attached to you looks or feels that you are part of their life before you can now say you're giving out to others. I think that's where I have found myself lately, having to work on myself and having to give up of myself to the community. That has been a quite tasking challenge for me. But recently I've learned that I take it as it comes. Sometimes I've had to take breaks in between. I just go for a break. I just go. I can go to Connecticut, go to PA, and just take time off. If I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed, I just book an hotel, just stay there. And I think that that's something that we women generally should consider. When you feel like you're getting overwhelmed, just take a break. Take a break. Taking a break is just like you're trying to compose yourself together. And that's what I am doing at the moment. It helps me able to project on my next move. So I think so far that's been working for me, being able to take a break. Just take a break, you know.
That is great. So let's talk about your journey into single motherhood, because I didn't know this when I met you, but it's actually it's a touching story, but it also comes with a lot of tragedy, and you've had to essentially lift yourself up from the ashes with the help of God.
Yeah, I know.
Do you mind sharing with the listeners what
Um,
led you to becoming a single mom?
this is a very long story. A very sad one for me, because my ex-husband's demise will be 8 years, this month of November 21st, since it passed. Um, it was an amazing man. I met him at my young age. He was a pharmacist, and I was working. We met at work. I was working then with GlaxoSmithKline as a project assistant. So from there, things happened. We got married. I got married in my current church. And it started. It was less than a year before we found out that he had a brain tumor. And then we tried to see how we could fly him out to India, but the time constraint, it was too short. So we decided that we're gonna take the risk, and they tried to do the surgery back home in Nigeria, but he didn't make it. So and then I didn't know that I had already taken it. Like, I didn't know that I was pregnant. Like, I was 2 months pregnant, but he was telling me that you're pregnant. I told him I still had my monthly cycle, so I don't think I was pregnant. So the news came, they did the surgery, and then I think that very night that they did the surgery, um, that night, I just didn't know what happened. I was just restless in my spirit. They came back with the news and said, okay, it was okay. And then by midnight, after the surgery, I got news again, because we're not allowed. I wasn't allowed to stay with him. I was put in another guest house very close to where the surgery was done. They told me he had post-surgery complications and that it was rushed to the ICU. The following day, I got to the ICU and I realized that it was a life support. So when all of that was happening, honestly, I was confused. Like, how did we get here? How did we get here? So, but I knew that I was just singing a particular song, and that was the song he was singing before he passed. He was saying, there will be glory after this. God will turn it around. But I didn't understand before he did the surgery what he meant by that song. So I just flowed. I went with the flow until the whole thing happened before my eyes, and I couldn't help the situation. So when all of that happened, it was buried. It was actually buried the following day, because we had spent so much to, to bring him back, but it just didn't work. So it passed. It was more or less like I was dreaming when everything was happening. When the news came that, oh, he passed already, there was nothing they could do. It was more or less like I was dreaming. The first thought that came to my head was, because I had resigned my job because I wanted to start a family. I resigned my job. How was I going to take care of this child, this unborn child? How was I going to support myself? I literally had no savings at that time because I put my savings in some projects. So I didn't have cash at hand or anything. And the thought was that, am I going to live on family? So many things were happening at the same time.
And would you mind sharing with us, how old were you at this time?
At this time, I was basically just about in my mid-20s.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I was in my mid-20s when all that happened.
Wow.
Yeah. So when it happened, I was clueless. I was naive. Like, there were so many things that were happening afterwards. The family started, so many things happened. I had to start going from country to country because I didn't feel safe at home. I stayed in Ghana for a while. I didn't feel safe. I came back again, left Ghana for South Africa. I stayed in South Africa for a while too. Came back. It wasn't just the same. It wasn't, things were not the same anymore. I didn't want to have to go back to my parents' house because I've been the breadwinner. So imagine going back to the same place that you've been the breadwinner, and then you have to look up to those people for help again. So for me, I felt like this was that point where I had to pick myself all together again. It was more or less like starting from the scratch, all by myself and God. And then I made that proposition in my heart, like, whatever it takes is what I'm going to give it. I had the baby. When I had the baby, it was a tug of war. After my son was a year and like 2 years, I took him to my mom and I said, you know what? If I got so clingy at some point, and my mom suggested that, you know what, I'm going to take this child from you so that you can put yourself together. So I kept him with my mom, and then went back to Lagos, got back to Lagos, and then I started working as a spa manager for a bit of time before doors started opening. I started trying out different places. But so far, that's been the story. It wasn't a very good experience because I look back now and I wonder how I was able to go through all of that and be here. So at that point, the honest thing is, when all of that was happening, I didn't know what was going to happen next for me. I just had a projection in my heart that, oh, I know that things will get better. I know that there were days where I had to lock myself up literally in my room and ask if God really exists. There are days I've questioned his existence. Like, I've never been a bad girl. I've never done anybody wrong my growing up. So why is this happening to me? Why is this happening? But in the course of it all, I have to pull myself. I had support from quite a number of people that they hold a very good place in my heart. They're here in the US too. And one person that's been constant, one person that's been really, really constant is Pastor Shay. I know that I do owe him a lot. He's been there from the start, from when I would need a ride to the airport back in Nigeria just to get some money to put myself together. He's been there, and God, I thank God for Pastor Amos. There was a time that I was out of job for a long time. I had to go into church administration. I had to work for a bit of time. I was on the church payroll. So a lot of people don't understand why I'm so fixated on the things of God. And because there's so much that I cannot even pay back.
So powerful. Yeah. I think what you're sharing is so important, because I think when people see your winning season,
they don't understand
your valley season.
Yeah, they don't understand.
And what I thought you mentioned was so important was the important role that clergy played in making sure that you were a bridge of troubled water.
Yeah.
And I was recently ordained, as you know, and for me, I felt very uncomfortable about it. Because I didn't feel like you should have a title to do the work, to be God's hands and feet.
Yes.
But so often we see people with titles who are not being God's hands and feet. And so I think what I love about your story is saying like you went through so many challenges, you know, you felt like your safety was at stake, but that you were surrounded by men of God.
I had good people around me
who were dedicated to being God's hands and feet. And it seems like for you, now that you're kind of out of your valley season or have learned to really live with this tragedy and turn it into a triumph, have become dedicated to being God's hands and feet.
Yes.
So let's talk about ShePillars and what ShePillars does and why.
Okay. ShePillars was actually born out of pain. When I say born out of pain, I looked at where I was coming from. It was like similar experiences were reoccurring in my life, in a sense that when I had issues with my late husband's family, it was really, really, really pathetic. I looked at how I was treated and I felt like, no, this is a psychological abuse. Like nobody after losing a loved one should have to go through all of this trauma. The abuse was so much that at some point I ran away from home, pregnant. Wow. I didn't tell anybody where I was. So it was so much. It was so much. I understand that they lost a loved one too, but I was the one involved too. And the pain that, this person left and left me in a family way, left me with an unborn child, and you're not being considerate of that fact. So all of that happened then, and then I got here into the US, and then I felt like, I was supposed to get a bit of I was unrealistic about my expectations of people when I got here. I felt like we speak the same language, we have the same color, we have the same tribe. You should treat me like you know me, you know my story, and that you shouldn't treat me any different. I may not be perfect, I may have done things to wrong you, but for the fact that you have an idea of where I'm coming from, you shouldn't use that as a base against me. So that was what played out itself again, getting into the US. So I looked at it that this is all forms of abuse again. So I haven't faced the first, and this is looking more like the second. Okay, I'd rather channel that energy. I will not look at my own pain. Rather, I will give off any energy that's very hurtful. I'll give it off and look at how I am going to help people in similar situations and tell them how much that they can achieve irrespective of the abuse and all of the pains that you're going through. So that was how ShePillars was born. And when I started out as, just going to my the nearest community where I was serving. I was working as a CNA. That was where I started from. They had a shelter in that place. So I just called the administrator and I said, you know what? I may not have all the money in the world, but I have one or two persons that I've reached out to that really, really will be in support of this. Can I do an open house for every woman in this building? That was how it started. And the turnout was great. The women, their faces were so lit, they were happy. People had to start sharing their stories and how they ended up in shelters. So from there, I started having the urge to do more. And that's how, we started going to the YMCA. And if not for COVID, I know that I told you that our next point will be the prison. A lot of people are like, prison? Yes.
Yes, I remember that. That's a lot.
Yeah. Like, prison? What are we going to do in a prison? But yes, they need some love. Some people they're not, I know that it's a correctional center, but irrespective of the fact that it's a correctional center, these people still need love. Okay? They need love. They need to be shown that they're part of the society too. And that's what ShePillars is about. We're trying to reintegrate broken women back into the society, not as broken people, not as broken women, but as women that have gone through phases of their lives and are better people. So that's what ShePillars is about at the moment. Actually, now we're not really doing We're not going out for now. We're actually just doing talks in between in-house and all of that for now. But hopefully when COVID ends, we're able to explore the options of going out again.
So you recently did a talk on narcissism where you really kind of walked through what it looks like in the workplace environment. And I found that very interesting and informative for me. Do you mind sharing with the women a little bit about the principles you shared during that talk? And also, why this particular topic is so interesting and, important to you?
Yeah, it's really, really, really important to me because I've been through Ellen back. At some point, I didn't even know that I was actually dealing with people who were really, really narcissistic. Like I said, some people will come to you looking all sweet, all charming, all loving, and then you let your guard down. And because they actually know that you are fixated on them, they feel like you don't have any other place to go. Like without them, you're nothing. So they try to capitalize on that. That trait itself is being narcissistic. To them, they feel like they're messy at that point. And narcissism is not, one person wouldn't just wake up and say I'm narcissistic. It's inborn. They are made either by overindulging or underindulging parenting, unavailability of parents, and these kids, as a kid, you do what your parents do. So it's like you're modeling that behavior into that child from a young age. So as a result of that, growing, the child might not feel like he's being narcissistic or so, but it's as a result of accumulated actions or behaviors or patterns that have happened in a child's life and is manifesting in adolescence or being as a young adult, and then it can metamorphosize. It grows over the years. So for me, being able to understand that narcissism is it happens in all relationships, and there are different types. Some are toxic to the fact that they want to hurt you, they enjoy seeing you get hurt. That's really, really very toxic. The ones that are in the closet are, the ones between husband and wife. You know, they won't make you feel like you're insecure. They themselves are insecure, but they like to pass it on you and make you feel like the reasons they're having the problem. And then you start questioning your own sanity, like, oh, probably it's true.
Yep.
Yeah, probably what you're saying is
going off of that. Actually, it's a very sensitive topic for me because I grew up in an environment with someone who was this way, right?
Mhm.
And it's not to take away anything from my father. Amazing man. He paid a great price for me to become who I am today. I will forever honor him for that. But it was a home life where every activity was centered around this individual, what they wanted, and emotional manipulation.
Mhm.
And amongst my siblings, I don't know what it is. I think God put something in me that was like, but not this one. I
Yeah.
cannot tell you how many times growing up I would get whooped for calling out
Well,
fighting and saying, no, that wasn't the fact. This is the fact. This is what you said. And then this is what happened. That's not true. And then, all of a sudden we flip. Are you calling me a liar? Are you doing this? And so when I say,
that's gaslighting. Gaslighting.
Gaslighting at its best. And it's actually what led me into social work, to study these things, to study patterns. So when I see someone engaging the behavior, I know what it is. And unfortunately, am I proud to have years of experience addressing it? Yeah. So let's talk about the strategies in addressing a narcissist gaslighting individual.
The first thing is flip the game. That's the first thing I tell people. Flip the game. Be unavailable. Like if you're in an environment that you know that you cannot, try to avoid that environment. That's the first thing. Avoid that environment. If you are the one on the receiving side, you need to avoid that environment. But if you are the one being narcissistic, because some people are narcissistic and they don't know they are.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing is you need to recognize that there is a problem if you are the one giving off narcissism. But if you're receiving, the first thing is flip the game. Flip the game. That's the first thing.
What does flip the game look like? What if somebody's listening and they're like, I don't feel like playing games?
Yeah. So this is it. The first thing is give less of yourself. If you're doing 100, like I'm there for this person, I do all that I can, maybe you should stop. Maybe it's time to stop. Set boundaries and just keep it healthy distance. That's flipping the game. Advocate for yourself and have your own personal goals. Like work on yourself and make it evident that you're working on yourself. And then start cultivating relationships that fills you with fulfillment. It can be work, it can be your child, it can be community service, it can be church. That's how you flip the game. And engage in more self-care, because this period can burn you out. If you're with someone that's narcissistic, you burn out easily and you don't even know. People outside will now tell you, why are you looking this way? Are you okay? Is everything okay with you? But it's mental. It's how do I put it? It's something that requires a therapeutic resolve, in the sense that you have to talk it out if you're on the receiving end, and then actually find out if there's a part of you that's actually broken as a result of this abuse that has happened. And then trying to see how you can mend.
Huge self-reflection, self-awareness piece.
Yes, yes. But the truth is, you cannot help a narcissistic person. Don't even try. If you're not a professional or you're not licensed social or health worker, you cannot help someone who is narcissistic. The better thing is let them go for psychotherapy. Psychotherapy is going to help them, because it's not going to be like you are the one involved. It's someone on the outside seeing them in another mirror. So it helps them better. And, from there, while you're apart from this person, ensure that, they're going for their therapy, they're talking. Actually, psychotherapy is more of talking, more of doing, there are exercises that helps this set of people get better. But if you are not a licensed professional, you're gonna burn out while trying to help that person. So it's better that you flip the game, flip the script, just stay away until this person can get themselves together.
That is so fantastic, right? Just remove yourself from the situation. But yes. I'll tell you, in my mom's situation, she was in a country where she didn't know anyone, did not have any financial resources. This is why sometimes too, for me, it's so important to share domestic violence resources with women so that they understand that we have something in the United States called the Violence Against Women Act, regardless of how some of our esteemed leaders are behaving in this current age, the United States is a place that really believes in protecting women. And there's so many New Jersey women's shelters. I mean, we've been at the shelter several times to help women there. And I think the hardest part is how much harder it is to put yourself back together when the narcissist has decided that they're done with you versus you deciding to just remove yourself from the situation. We're always afraid.
That's it.
When really you should just walk away for yourself.
Walk away.
God will catch you.
I think that there has to be, it's a decisive situation. You have to decide whether or not you want to do that, or you still want to be in it, or you want to take a walk. And then if you decide to take a walk, what do you have to do? Who do you have to relate with? So as not to be seen like you are the problem. Because sometimes in trying to get away from a narcissistic person, people who are familiar with that environment or that situation might feel that you are the problem because you're dealing with someone who is narcissistic. They might not, a narcissistic person can mask it, and people outside will not exactly know what's going on between you both. So it's always better at that point that you use resources that are really, really close to you, or not even close to you. Community health, behavioral health centers very much around you. I use Rutgers Behavioral Health Center, and they've been amazing. I've seen like one other behavioral center that's really doing well in Plainfield. I can't recollect the name, but there are organizations. And you're a licensed social worker. And some people will find it really difficult to open up to people that they know. So I always suggest that, okay, you open up to this, go to the centers and seek for help. You can do a walk-in, and they'll be very accessible, very willing to help you. Especially Rutgers, I can vouch for them because I've been in therapy there, so I know how it works. So I think that that's the first thing. Take yourself away from your familiar environment, if that will make you feel better. That's the first.
Such a good point.
Yeah.
Such a good point. Get help, get yourself out of the environment. And you're right, you know, I'm also going to share a picture here to the wheel of power and control, because a lot of times people don't know that they're in abusive situations until they really start to look at it down in writing. I know for me growing up, it really wasn't clear until I got into my social work classes and said, oh my goodness, when you see it, you got to call a spade a spade.
Yes, that's it.
And sometimes you're right, you get out of those situations and you're not healed. And I almost came to a place where I've almost married someone who was just as narcissistic as the home environment that I grew up in.
Wow.
And I remember having a few disputes and then getting to the third one and saying, you're an abuser. And the moment that I was able to say out loud, you are an abuser, the power in the relationship shifted. And I was able to take control back and walk away from that situation. And, you know, I don't know what would have become of my life if I would have married that person. You know,
I know it's gonna be really, really hazardous. First, your esteem is off. It's gonna be off, like really off. Like you find it very difficult to even talk where people are. Like, I don't think I measure up. Can I speak in this room? Am I help to? You know, that's what happens when you've been dealing with narcissism in the secret. It tends to portray when you're in the open, self-isolation, not wanting to talk to people. It's part of it. You know, trying to do over. Some people will even mask it and try to overdo things just so people don't have an idea of what you're going through.
Yeah.
That's another trait. So when all of this is coming, you see that this is no, this is it. This is it. That's when you need to take a break and say, no, I just want to break even. I want to get out of it. And sometimes it might not be verbal, like you might not really articulate it to the abuser himself or herself. It might just be practical steps that, okay, this person, so we know that, oh, I think she's had enough. So because when you now make it verbal, they can grow to be toxic and then can in turn become physical abuse. The moment they know that you're beginning to get emancipated from their old, it becomes all toxic, and that can result into physical assault. So I tell people, when you want to get away from an abuser, it's always good not to be verbal about it, because you don't know how toxic this person is or what you are going to expect, what reaction you will get. So the first thing, remove yourself from the situation, give less of yourself, and walk away. That's it.
Wow. That's a word. That's a word. Thank you so much. All right, ladies, you know that, I mean, Tosin, your story is so loaded. Like
so loaded. I had to just cut it.
I know, you really gave us snippets, but I want to encourage y'all to find her on social media. I'm going to link to her profile. I'm going to link to the talk that she gave about narcissism. I'm going to link to ShePillars. There's just so much going on with this woman. And I think what you exemplify for me, and what I'm always watching about the women who are around me in this season, is the level of excellence, sis.
Yes.
Let's talk about the level of excellence that you just bring to everything. I really have to give it to you before I let you go. And just
thank you.
Energy, the light that you bring.
I'm so elated.
the light that you bring into the atmosphere when you come in. You know?
Yeah. The thing is, for me, I believe that I know that we all go through different phases in our lives. It could be either you waiting on God for a child, believing God for a marriage or a life partner, believing God for a good job, believing God for a major breakthrough. But in these seasons, or your seasons of waiting, you're projecting what exactly is going to come next. I believe that is where your focus should be. like helping the people in that particular environment of your need. I remember then when I was trying for a child, then when we just got married, any box that I bought it then back at home, I was always paying for it. Any pregnant woman fare, I pay for their fare. They don't know me, I don't have to know them. I just give them a tap on the shoulder, like, don't pay. So I feel like seeding, that's seeding. And I feel like when it comes to the issue of excellence, I believe that do it like you're not going to have the opportunity to do it again. If you do it like this is the only opportunity you have to do that thing, then surely it will come out good. You will give up the best of yourself, irrespective of the challenges that you're facing at that time. I remember then when I was working as a CNA and also doing a day job as a customer care, I was in school too as well. I was actually going to school, and it wasn't really, really easy. But man, I got the best grades so far. So like I said, give the best of yourself. Your challenges are not excuses for your mediocrity. They're not excuses. It's not acceptable. When God has so much deposited a lot in you, and it says the excellency of his power is of him and not of us. So if you believe that you have that power, you have everything that it takes to be all that he can become, then why would you want to settle for less? That's what I remember when I came there, a lot of people say, oh, you do too much. Oh, you have to calm down. We've been here for 15, 20 years. We have never achieved this. So you don't have to do more than this. And I tell them, no, that is you.
Yep.
And so when I see anybody trying to discourage me from doing something, I just shift. I won't tell you I'm going to shift. You just realize that, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to shift. It's either if I know that I'm engaging you in calls or in text, I'm going to cut it off. It's not like you're a bad person. But the truth is I don't just want that energy to dissipate.
Oh my goodness, you're preaching right now.
No, I don't want that energy. If you have the I can't, it won't happen, we cannot do that. I will make sure that, there's a line, it's in line. So when I see that you're trying to discourage me and say, oh, you're here, you like money too much, you're overdoing. And then I ask, oh, I like money too much. So what did I come here to do? Darling, what did I come here to do? Yes, what did I come here to do?
What's interesting for me too in this season, and you're right, your work will speak for itself. I remember starting and people had a whole lot to say, like, oh, you have this complex child at home. Why?
Don't say that.
Business.
For some of us, that's what gives us the energy. The fact that you're able to go. Exactly. The moment you don't do something, you start looking like you're sick, and people will start asking, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? But it's in the midst of that crisis that some of us emerge in the midst of crisis.
Yes.
That's where our strength lies. And I think for you, that's the same. For me, that's the same. For a couple of other ladies that I know around me. So when you're coming with this energy of, don't you think you should not do this?
Just relax.
That's relax what, my dear?
You go relax.
We keep going. That's it.
And don't get me wrong, like, we're not saying don't rest, right? Like right now I'm in a period of rest, but there was a period that I felt like God was telling me go. And I made sure that I cut out anybody in my life who would disrupt my flow, disrupt my focus, disrupt my energy, disrupt my mental health. Because I'm like, I don't got time. For this. I have goals and a destiny to fulfill.
And one thing that I've realized is when people are discouraging you from a particular thing, try and look into that thing. Exactly. Don't stop. Try and look into it. When they're discouraging you, telling you, I remember then when I heard of Epic and all that, I came in, everybody was doing Epic. I was like, okay, I'm interested in Epic. In fact, somebody that was very close to me was like, oh, I know you're too smart. If I teach you this thing once, you will grab everything, all of the applications, you will know it at home. So I'm not going to teach you. You're probably going to pay me like $3,000 for me to be able to teach you. And as of then, I didn't even have that money. So I told that person, I said, I'm going to know this Epic. I will know it. And I'll come back and tell you that I know it. So, and that's one thing from when you tell me no, that's a challenge for me. Like, you will see that I will do it, and I'll come back and tell you that I did it.
And that's the hard part. My motto is I could show you better than I could tell you.
Yeah, that's it.
Sometimes you just got to be quiet, move like a thief in the night.
Yeah, move like it's not happening. And then let the old thing blow. Like move like you're not doing anything. If I act unserious, and sometimes I'm with friends, they actually think that this is an unserious person. She plays too much, and for me that's just how I unwind. Playing, laughing. But you don't know what I do in my in my closet and how many things I have to juggle together. You don't have an idea.
It's amazing. And you're always put together, and your son is always put together. And I see the way you show up with him, and I see the way that he respects you. And I think it's really hard to have to be mom and dad and manage all that you're doing. But sis, if ain't nobody telling you you're out here, you're more than killing it. You murdered the situation.
Thank you.
So we're going to speak life and say that you are living it up. Ladies, I hope that you got a lot from today. I hope you felt inspired. I hope that if you are in a situation that feels like it's ashes, that you understand that God can give you beauty for that. But you're going to have to get up. And you're going
you have to get up and make a move.
Yep. And you're going to have to kick some folk out your life to get it done. Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Well, love you much, ladies. We'll see you next week at A Day in the Life of the Young.